See, there's like a big hole here and a lot of the engine's missing. We're gonna try to do something about that today. This is a 2005 GMC Sierra 2500 with the 6.0 gas in it. Part of the 6.0 gas in it. We ripped this thing apart because we heard a very heavy ticking noise that turned into a grind. First step was we gave it a good listen, poking around with a hose trying to figure out where the sound was coming from, and we isolated the sound of the oil pan. So I thought connecting rods, and that's where we started. But all the connecting rods look absolutely fantastic. So I thought, well, maybe it's a lifter issue since the truck's known for lifter issues. But none of the lifters were stuck. Everything looked fantastic, and there was no excessive play on anything or any excessive wear spots on any of the rollers. Lifters were fine. So then as I lay under the engine contemplating my life, trying to figure out why I can't figure out where the sound's coming from, I noticed something. This bolt here was loose and ground down. Well, we were right about one thing. It was definitely coming from the oil pan area. So I thought that was pretty neat. That's called an oversight due to lack of experience. I have no experience. We're just making it up as we go because, well, my budget limits paying people that actually know what they're doing. There are some good things about this situation. One, we know exactly what kind of shape this engine's in. Pretty dang solid, don't really have a lot of issues. Two, we are gonna go ahead and replace the lifters because the truck has 200,000 miles on it. There's some signs that people have been in this engine before, but there's absolutely no documentation of that. We ran the VIN number and there's some basic shop stuff like oil changes and things like that, but there's no info on an actual shop documenting or logging something out like an engine swap or a rebuild or something like that. So we don't know what exactly has been done to it. Since we got her open, we're putting new lifters in, obviously all new gaskets, and there's a couple other odds and ends. There are some big parts to this that have already been completed. We did completely redo the suspension, 200,000 miles, new upper, new cross member, new shocks, new bushings, new camber bolts, new links. There's a new lower on there as well. There's still some things we need to do. Major progress while the truck was down. And we built a custom light skirt to fill in that dead space between the old bumper and the new landscape bed. So this is supposed to be a full gasket set. Just lay everything out. We obviously will not use everything out of this set. We'll use quite a bit. Oil pan gasket. Dang. They're multi-layer metal gaskets, and that is what came out. They're labeled front. He put his tent right in the way. Well, I've had the lifters marinating in oil for almost 48 hours. So obviously as we reassemble this, we want it to be as clean as possible. Now we're not a professional builder with a sterile shop, but I do have some sawhorses and a piece of wood and some brake cleaner. So the huge advantage of still having the bottom end off of this thing is we can kind of just flush everything out the bottom. Before I get too carried away with that, I probably ought to surface prep the block for the gaskets. This little carbide scraper. Just making sure that this mating surface Lifters are in. I've got my dowels sitting here. I'm gonna wipe these heads down one more time. I also, on my bolt holes on the bottom, there's coolant in there for when we pull the heads. I wanna make sure I get that coolant out of those bolt holes. So I got dowels. They go in these bottom corners down here. That just helps get the head lined up on there. Go ahead and set those in place. Made a mistake. Let me show you what it says in the book. It says new 11mm head bolts. Do not reuse head bolts, always replace them with new ones. Of course, the book's gonna want you to spend money, so I hopped on the old internet and did some research, and everybody agrees 100%, which is a wild occurrence on the internet, that definitely use new head bolts on the 6.0 gas. They will be here tomorrow at noon. So it's a few days later on this project, and I just absolutely slammed the brakes on where I was at because a couple things occurred to me that I should be doing better. And it's definitely not a how-to channel, but I'm gonna give you a couple recommendations real quick. Number one, I was rushing because I really need this truck back together because I've got a whole bunch of scrap metal and stuff I need to haul off and some equipment I need to move. I need this truck back together, but I was rushing to get this thing back together and skipping what I feel like are a few crucial steps, especially if a fella doesn't know what he's doing. Taking those extra steps to ensure that what we're doing will last instead of rushing through it and being right back in this same spot 10,000 miles down the road. One thing I was doing that was just absolutely ridiculous is I was going to put it in like that. If I've got the heads out, I need to go ahead. This is the perfect time to clean my intake side and to clean the exhaust side. It's not going to get any easier than right here on the table. The other thing is, for whatever reason, I got that cleaned up and I said, that's good. I'm content, I'm happy with it. And decided that that was as good as it needed to be. This is what I was gonna go with. And it's definitely not even close to clean enough for a head gasket to seal decent. So I went ahead and did this side. This is what I should be looking at. I still have a couple imperfections right here, but this is what I should be looking at. Nice clean block, not this. There's a big difference there. Now I need to do this side. The other thing that I didn't do that I should have, on this side, I've gone ahead and taken the old head bolts and I ran them in until they stopped. Any water or oil or dirt or debris, cleaning those bolt holes out. So I just ran the bolts in until they stopped, and I did that a couple times on each hole and pushed water and oil out. And I'm going to take the air hose, spray them again, and then make sure they're good and clean so we get a good consistent torque spec across these bolts. Now I'm going to do that over here and show you how I ended up doing it. I'm not saying it's the perfect way or the correct way, and there's probably better ways to do it, but this is the way I did it with what I have. And I'm much happier with the result on the driver's side of this block than I was with what I was going to go with on the passenger side. The other thing of note at this point in the process is I ordered 2005 head bolts. This is a 2005 truck. It's a 2005 truck, but it takes 2004 head bolts. I don't know if it's because of when it was made or if it does in fact have a remanufactured engine like we kind of suspected. There's a big difference in the bolts. The 2004 and earlier has longer bolts and 2 short ones, and of course these 5 smaller ones. The 2005 had bolts that were all this length. So there's a significant difference. Be sure you pay attention to that whenever you go to order. You could just ask them if there's different length bolts or not, and just make sure you're getting the right thing. There's the part number there for the head bolts I ended up with. So I can absolutely guarantee that whenever they say use a light sanding block to clean the top of the block, this is not what they mean. This is a drywall sanding sponge. It's not made for what I'm doing. I'm not pushing on it. I'm just lightly running across here, and I don't think it's aggressive enough to actually pull any metal. To the best I can tell, it's just pulling any old gasket or oil residue or stuff like that off and cleaning it like an aggressive sponge, not like it's sanding anything down. Now, they do make tools specifically for this, and if a fellow wants to spend the money or knows a guy that has them, that would be my recommendation. You know, use the thing that they make to do the job you're doing. But I'm not. I'm running this, and the results seem to be looking decent. I'm spraying WD-40 on there. I saw a lot of people recommend using the WD-40. It helps not cut the block, but it does cut through the grease and things like that. And it does seem, again, to make a difference. There's definitely a noticeable difference when I'm done with this. And then cleaning it off with brake clean and acetone and making sure I get every single bit off of here that I can get with the abilities and the tools that I have. And then after that, we're just running these bolts in and forcing anything out of there. And again, even after we run these in and get them cleaned out, I'm gonna run the air hose down them one more time. Just giving those lifters a little bit more oil. Nice and easy. Looks good. The devil's at. There it is. There it is. Okay. And we've got a specific sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then these are last up top, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I'm going to snug them to that, and then we'll run the torque. So I'm going to snug them all down by hand. Do you have to? Well, I think if you know what you're doing, a fella could probably just run them in with a 3/8 impact, but I don't. And going by hand gives me the chance to feel if something's wrong. So. If your brain is scattered like mine, here's my recommendation. All right, let's go up front for the torque specs. 2004 later models. That's what we want. Step 1, all 11 millimeter bolts, 22 pounds. Talked about having different size head bolts. Design 1, equipped with 2 different length bolts. Design 2, equipped with 1 length. We know we have the 2 different lengths. That's the one we want to stick to. The big difference is the third step is different in both of those. So there is a different sequence. And I've got this set up, the sequence, the torque spec, degrees of rotation, 10 and 9 are different. Everything else is the same. I can cross it off as I go. That way I don't forget anything. So the next step is 90 degrees of rotation. This AC Delco wrench is set at 90 degrees of rotation, and it's even smart enough, if I have to restart and pull, it'll make that work and tell me what 90 degrees is. The other thing, I'll make a mark on the block and the bolt with the Sharpie, so after I pull that off, I can say, yeah, that definitely looks like 90 degrees, or in fact, it does not. A couple frames of reference to make sure I'm getting the rotation I need to. Making my marks. The other things with these marks, there's going to be another set of rotation. So the mark on the block I can still use, and then I can look at it, and if somehow I messed up my list and one of those isn't rotated, I know I missed it and I need to do it. £37 on that one. Let's reference our mark. Let's see if it looks like 90 degrees to you. Looks like 90 degrees to me. Perfect. Reset the wrench. We'll go to the next one, which is number 2. So all these ended up being pretty close on the final, 68, 69, 69, 67. Guess I didn't write that one down. 67, 68. That's a little low at 61, and that's a little higher at 75, but the degrees of rotation look pretty good as far as my marks go. Remember, that was only supposed to be 50 over 90. Do your own math. But that looks like 180. 180. Those marks look pretty good. Same with the bolts on the bottom. So I'm just going to repeat the same steps and do the same thing over here. Everything you just saw me do there, we're going to do there. I don't remember where I left you. The battery died, and I just kept going. It's a new day, late in the evening. I'm going to try to get that valley cover on and try to get my push rods and rockers on next. But a couple things real quick. All the bolts slid in fine with the heads mounted to the block, except for the bolt furthest this way against this firewall. That one would not slide in. I didn't have clearance between the firewall and the head for the bolt to get in there. So I had to put the bolt into the head itself, slide it into place, and then the bolt would slide in fine. Other than that, everything else went fine. I had to do some research on these and looking at some things in the book. These are called torque to yield bolts. The rotational sequence, the extra 90 degrees on one step and then another 90 degrees, that is the bolt stretching sequence, according to people much smarter than I am. And what I learned, my concern as I went through, I was jotting down what the torque spec or what the torque was after I got done with both sets of the 90 degrees turns, with the exception of the ones that were 50 degree turns. And I was all over the place, anywhere from 70 foot-pounds to 80 foot-pounds. I was all over the place, and that made me a little nervous, but I did some research about it, and they said you're gonna be all over the place. Once you start the stretching sequence, the torque isn't gonna be consistent anymore. It's making sure that bolt gets stretched properly, which is that rotational step. I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly, but my point is, research it, make sure you understand exactly what it's supposed to be doing. That way, if it's doing something other than that, we know something's off. But based on what I'm finding, hopefully, we are good to go. So that gasket set comes with a new, there you go, valley cover gasket. It also comes with these. I would call it a seal, but maybe it's a gasket. It's there to protect against the knock sensors. I want to try to clean this up just a little bit though. Certainly looking a lot better. Then we took some care to make sure we got cleaned out in those seats really well, where those seals will sit. I'm gonna pull these old knock sensors out, and I should have some new knock sensors tomorrow. I'm just gonna replace them since we're here. They're not overly expensive. You see there's a lot of debris down that valley. It is directional. There's a slight difference right there. But if you got it backwards, it should be pretty obvious on that back side that's not laying right. There we go. I'll just do every bolt finger tight. And I'm going to run torque on it. It doesn't have a torque sequence in the book, but we're just going to start from the center and just work our way out. I found 18. Okay, very nice. Now this is not a how-to channel. What's going on with my lens? Oh dear, I scratched it. Yep, we're gonna have to watch that. This is not a how-to channel, but let me show you an amateur tip from a guy who's made some mistakes. And this is paying off. I don't know if this is your average DIY job, but if you got a little mechanical mindset and you got the book and the patience and the time for your truck to be down, I think it's something a fella can do. But my tip for you on anything like this is make as many reference points as possible, because I just caught a mistake I made when running those head bolts. These lines I made right there, I can see. I did both rounds of 90. I can see that's sort of 90 with the 50 on the second round. I can check my marks. those reference marks, I didn't have to make them because I've got the torque wrench that specifies that. But by making those extra marks on that back one I just caught, it was sitting at 90. I never did the second 50. And I thought, well, wait a minute. I know I marked it off the list when I was doing my stuff. Let's take a look at it. I didn't. By doing a double check before we put everything back together with that reference mark, I noticed that I forgot it. There's several steps on here, and they've all got to be done for this to work the way it needs to work. You can see my marks on those bolts down there. So if you're going to take this on by yourself, try not to do it in a rush, because you'll end up forgetting a step and costing yourself quite a bit of time. If it's your first Captain Kleeman video, you're in the middle of something that I don't normally like to be doing, which is working on my stuff when it's broke down, but we seem to do a lot of it. And if you've been with us for a while, well, if you stick with us for just at least one more video, we'll have this thing all buttoned up, fingers crossed, knock on wood if I could find some, and we'll try to haul off a load of scrap just to give her the old test and see how she holds up. I'm pretty excited. We got some more excavation jobs lined up. The siding for the YouTube yacht showed up 2 days ago, so it's time for this thing to get back on its wheels and drivable, because we got some other stuff to get going, to get finished, to get closer to being finished. Should have just named the channel Not Finished, you know? Fella should have just done that.